Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to you all. In commemoration of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's birth anniversary, we are here together to enrich our understanding of Dr. Ambedkar's ideas and vision. This day is also commemorated as Equality Day. Dr. Ambedkar developed his very own unique political strategy in an attempt to secure social emancipation by way of political empowerment for those who found themselves at the lowest rung of the caste hierarchy. He has famously said that social democracy lies at the base of political democracy. Put in simple words, we can say that unless inequalities are bridged between men, the true realization of political democracy is not possible. So he has said that he saw democracy not just as a form of government, but also as a means to achieve meaningful change in the realm of social and economic progress. So it has largely been held that realization of democracy will likely address discrimination stemming from caste divisions and prejudices. While these divisions began to break down over a period of time, we find today that they are not totally disintegrated. Inequalities which are perpetrated by caste discrimination have been persistent, and as such, they continue to pose a challenge even today to rights, to the life, and to the development of the individual, and by implication to democracy itself. Today, we have with us Dr. Vruttant Manwatkar, who will be speaking on Dr. Ambedkar's ideas on democracy and on the issue of discrimination in India. Dr. Manwatkar is at present an assistant professor at KC College, Churchgate. He is an alumnus of Jawaharlal Nehru University. He has worked as a research assistant at CORD, New Delhi, in a UNICEF project for situational analysis of secondary education in Maharashtra and the development of state action plan. He has also been an ICSSR fellow. His research work has largely been focused on the themes of democratization, tolerance, and respect, and he is presently working on the moral and democratic ideas of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He has, to his credit, a number of notable research publications. He also has his own music band called Karo, and he is also a columnist on The Wire and The Roundtable. So, welcome to KES Shroff College. Here at KES, we are committed to the ideal of achieving social inclusion and consistently attempt to build these values in our students as well, so that they may, as a responsible member of the community of this society and as a citizen, continue to foster these values in whichever role they may be playing in life, in the world, and contribute towards building a more equal world. I now humbly request you, sir, to begin today's discussion. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Amulya. Thank you very much for this very beautiful introduction. And thank you, Ritika, for this interaction with which we have concluded to this talk. And thank you, Dr. Lily Bhushan, the principal of KES Shroff College. Thank you, Sonika Gupta ma'am, who have invited me for this talk. Thank you, V.S. Kannan sir, who is the vice principal of KES Shroff College and who is also in the committee of this talk, of the organization of this talk. Thank you also my principal, the principal of KC College, Dr. Himlata Bagla, for permitting me to deliver this talk here. And thank you all the people, all the participants, all the friends who have joined here. I see that many of our students also have joined here. And good evening, all of you. Many of my friends are here. Good evening, all of my friends, my colleagues. Thank you very much for joining here. I would be discussing the idea of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's ideas on democracy and discrimination. And I will try to be as simple as possible, because I see that we have many friends who are our students here. And KES Shroff College, most of the people who are here are degree college students. So when we talk about democracy and discrimination, these are very, very simple and basic concepts. And we should be very simplified in our discussions of these two very important concepts, which are democracy and discrimination. So let me start my discussion here. So first of all, before beginning my discussion, I would like to give a salutation to my teacher, my master, who is also first the master of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Lord Buddha. So we give the honor by saying that Namatassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Honor to the Blessed One, the Exalted One, the fully enlightened One. So with this honor, I will begin my discussion here, which is of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's ideas on democracy and discrimination. So there are these two important concepts which we are discussing. Okay, first is democracy, and second one is discrimination. So before we go towards discrimination, let us see first what is democracy. Okay, democracy, I am very sure that all of us know. Democracy is a very basic, very, very popular, very celebrated political concept. Okay, when we think of democracy, there is one very popular quote which is given by Abraham Lincoln, that the government which is of the people, for the people, by the people, uh, means democracy. So generally, usually, we have this kind of conception of democracy, which is very correct. Okay, which is very correct, which is very basic, which is very foundational perception of democracy and definition of democracy. And when we go to see what is discrimination, then we see that uh, along with democracy, there is also an opposite kind of concept, which is discrimination. Okay, discrimination. To define discrimination, we can say that it's a kind of unfairness in treatment, which is there between different people, which lies at different levels of hierarchies. Okay, discrimination is also unjustfulness. Okay, there is, whenever there is discrimination, it leads towards what we call injustice, where there is a lack of justice, where there is lack of fairness. So unfairness, injustice, lead, and they overall make what we call discrimination. When Dr. Ambedkar talked about discrimination, he talked about discrimination by his lived experience. Okay, whenever we see discrimination happening anywhere, uh, we relate it with our own lived experience. If that experience is somewhere lived by us, then we can really understand that kind of discrimination which is happening with anybody else at any point of time, at anywhere in the world. So this is how Baba Saheb saw and experienced discrimination, and he tried to unfold different layers of discrimination. Okay, somewhere Baba Saheb used, and I think this he used in his very, very popular book, which is a speech, in fact. This speech is called Ranadi, Gandhi and Jinnah, where he talks about discrimination. And while speaking and writing about discrimination, what Baba Saheb says, we call Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Baba Saheb. So what Baba Saheb says, he says that discrimination is okay, not verbally, but according to him, discrimination uh, is discrimination happens when people they are they they are dealt with untouchability. Okay, they are dealt with they are dealt with humiliation, and they are dealt with very disrespect. So this is how in these words Baba Sahib sees, and he used the phrases. I was talking about Ranade Gandhi and Jinnah. Here he uses this phrases where he says that I am unheard, I am untouched, and I am unseen. So this is how these aspects of unheardability, untouchability, unseenability make the basis of discrimination. So anywhere these these experiences are experienced by anybody, so we can say that that person is getting discriminated, and injustice is happening, and unfairness is happening with that personality. So this is how we can see that discrimination is not a good thing if we judge it in the values of good and bad. So we can very easily conclude that discrimination is not a good thing. It is an evil. It is an ill of the society. Okay. So what is the solution for this ill? Okay, there are these issues uh, which are rooted in this ill of discrimination, and particularly when in India we talk about ills of Indian society. So we see that we have got many ills of Indian society which are rooted in this concept which we call discrimination. So let us see what I would like to postulate here. I would like to make a postulation which I think you are able to see on screen. Here, I would like to make this postulation, which I think is the idea of Dr. Ambedkar. Okay, according to Dr. Ambedkar, democracy as a means or solution against the ill of discrimination. Democracy is actually a means or solution against the ills of discrimination. So, in my latter part of this discussion, I will be discussing and elaborating and simplifying this very particular statement or this very particular postulate. So let us move ahead and see what is democracy. In fact, okay, we have started with the discussion of democracy, and then we discussed about discrimination. But now, from now onwards, in my talk, I will be more focusing on democracy, because democracy, I see, is a kind of solution, is a kind of means which Dr. Ambedkar has given via his all academic work, via all his statist work and his philosophical works. So, first of all, when we talk of democracy, we see that democracy is taken and considered to be a political instrument. Okay, when we talk of democracy, I've just now remembered Abraham Lincoln, where Abraham Lincoln has very simply and very powerfully put the idea of democracy, which is democracy is a government of the people, to the people, of the people, by the people, for the people. So this is a kind of democracy which is a form of government. And when we talk of political democracy, so we see democracy in this very particular political frame of idea, which is a very uh, limited in a sense. Okay, so in political democracy, we see that there is a conception of republic. Any democratic form of government, any democratic state has republic. If not any, so most of the democratic forms of government has republican form of government, or republican form of state. And then in this kind of political democracy, we also have representation as a very important political concept, where representation is given to different people, different communities. Okay, people from different regions, people from different religions. So different communities or groups, they are given representation, and mostly they are given equal representation in a political democracy. Then we have in political democracy parliament or parliamentary form of government. We see in India also we have a parliamentary form of government, and Dr. Ambedkar was also one of the architects of the democracy which we have, uh, which we call a parliamentary democracy. Okay, he was the drafting committee chairperson, and this is how he was very instrumental, and he was a leading personality in the making of Indian Constitution also. So this is how he gave his ideological inputs in the making of Indian political democracy. And Indian Parliament and Indian parliamentary democracy is a living Indian political democracy in that sense. Then in parliamentary democracy, in political democracy, we also have elections, and many a times it happens that elections become synonymous to democracy, and many people think that if there are no elections, there can be no democracy. Okay, we have had thinkers, political philosophers like Robert Dahl, who have emphasized on elections and electoral form of democracy, where they have defined democracy via regular elections, and there are other thinkers also. So this is how holistically we see in a political democracy. We are defining democracy as basically a form of government. Okay, government, we understand where people are elected and or selected, and they try to run the administration of a state. So the people who are administrating the state, they all together, they are called government. Okay, so this kind of democracy, which is a political democracy, is basically considered a form of government. But now, as I think Professor Amulya was also discussing in her introduction, the difference between social and political democracy. So I will move to that aspect, which Professor Amulya has also discussed in the introduction, which is called the social democracy. And here we see that there is a difference between political democracy and social democracy. So, what is social democracy and how it is different from political democracy? That we will discuss briefly now. Okay, so in social democracy, we see that there should be equality in relationships. Okay, so social democracy has this condition of equal relations, which is unlike a society where we have got a social system which is based on graded inequality. Okay, so in social democracy, there is no graded inequality. There are no different distinctions based on a caste, class, creed, gender, and the relations. They are horizontal in a way. They are equal. Okay, and then in a social democracy, there is a feeling of togetherness. Okay, people they share this feeling of togetherness. There is no or less feeling of distinctness or discrimination. So this is an opposite idea to what we are looking as discrimination in this discussion now. Okay, so it is unlike discrimination, and this is what we have in social democracy, which is togetherness. And I'm sorry I've repeated this phrase here, but in the next level of social democracy, we also see that there is recognition for all the persons, all the citizens, all the beings who are living in a state, okay, and in a society particularly, and there is a reciprocity, okay, there is a sharing. If somebody is greeting some other body, so that other body would also greet that body in a reciprocal way. So this is one of the important elements of social democracy, where there is this aspect of reciprocity as well. So recognition and reciprocity also become very fundamental aspects of social democracy. And finally, we also see that social democracy has got this very important element of respect. In social democracy, there is no disrespect. In social democracy, a man would not disrespect women because the other personality is woman. A Brahmin would not uh, disrespect any other body who is Kshatriya or who is Shudra in that level of hierarchy. So there is no such kind of otherness, and in fact, there is a feeling of respect which is shared by all. So, by all these aspects, we can see that social democracy is a feeling which is very shared, and it is a feeling of togetherness which is shared by the people in a society. Now, when we talk of Dr. Ambedkar's idea of democracy, so we have to now first of all see what is Dr. Ambedkar's idea of democracy. So first we'll ponder upon this question, what it is. What is Dr. Ambedkar's idea of democracy? If I give you an option between social democracy and political democracy, I'm sure you must be having your own opinion about Dr. Ambedkar's idea of democracy. And if you have any idea, you can share in the chat box. What do you think of Dr. Ambedkar's idea of democracy? What it is actually? I will be discussing on this idea, that what is the idea of democracy of Dr. Ambedkar. Then I will touch upon the aspect where Dr. Ambedkar emphasizes certain idea of democracy as important idea of democracy itself. Okay, so in this holistic idea of democracy, he he emphasizes certain aspects, certain values in democracy, and then we will see how he has emphasized his particular idea of democracy. Professor Ritika, could you please tell me how much time do I have? How much time? So that accordingly I will. You are muted.
Yes, sir. So you can continue with your presentation. We planned it for 45 minutes, but if some more time is required, we'll go ahead.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So yes, so here we will now discuss about what is the idea of Dr. Ambedkar, or what is the idea of democracy according to Dr. Ambedkar, and what he emphasizes in his idea of democracy. And then we'll see how he has emphasized, what he has emphasized in his idea of democracy. This is a very important part of this discussion. So first of all, when I would share my opinion about what it is, I would definitely say that Dr. Ambedkar's idea of democracy is a very holistic idea of democracy. It comprises of political democracy, because we have seen him instrumental in making India what we call a modern India, where we have institutions, different governmental institutions, and these institutions are working on the idea of this political democracy. So he, of course, he is an advocate of political democracy. So along with political democracy, Dr. Ambedkar also talks about social democracy, which we have already discussed. Okay, in the last slide, we have discussed what is Dr. Ambedkar's idea of social democracy and general idea of social democracy. And along with political and social democracy, he has also talked about economic equality, economic democracy, and cultural democracy at various occasions. But here, I would like to take your focus on the fact where he has emphasized on a certain kind of democracy, and he has emphasized uh, on the social democracy, which we have discussed. Okay, so what what is his conceptualization of democracy and how he emphasizes it? Let us see, and let us try to discuss this. Now, somebody has already already here commented in the chat box, Dr. Arun Chandane, and very correctly he has mentioned that he has he has mentioned that liberty and equality is Dr. Ambedkar's idea of democracy. So holistically, liberty, equality, along with fraternity, is the holistic idea of Dr. Ambedkar's democracy. But when we talk about his emphasis on social democracy, then we see that there is a very interesting interplay between liberty and equality. Okay, and whenever we talk about Dr. Ambedkar's idea of equality, this interplay of liberty and equality opens a window into his broader ideas of society, broader ideas of looking towards the world, and and his ideas of emancipation of the people altogether. So let us try to see this balance and interplay between liberty and equality here. So according to Dr. Ambedkar, democracy comprises of these three values. Okay, I was very glad to hear from Professor Ritika, who told us that KES College, an institution, as an educational institution, they take care of institutional values and constitutional values in that sense. And the discussion of values and the safeguarding of values becomes very important in our day-to-day lives also. So coming to the discussion of value here in connection of liberty and equality, I would like to mention that these are very fundamental human values, liberty and equality. And not only Dr. Ambedkar, but the whole movement of enlightenment, which had begun in 17th century, 16th, 17th century, which has been there until now, it celebrated these values, these human values of liberty, equality, as well as fraternity. And one of the very glaring examples of the celebration of these human values is seen in French Revolution. Okay, where these values were safeguarded, and they in fact became a slogan of French Revolution. So liberty, equality, and fraternity are very important values. But when we see Dr. Ambedkar's perspective on liberty and equality, he very clearly mentions, and time and again he has talked about this interplay where he says that liberty without equality is of no use, and equality without liberty is also of no avail. So there should be, according to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, a righteous interplay between liberty and equality. According to him, there should be a correct, righteous balance between liberty and equality. So, this is how Dr. Ambedkar sees democracy in the light of liberty and equality, particularly. But for establishing this balance, this righteous balance of liberty and equality, he has given this very significant value and importance to fraternity. So, according to Dr. Ambedkar, fraternity becomes a human value which makes a balance, which make a righteous balance between liberty and equality. So, if there is more equality in a society, it may lead toward tyranny. Okay? If there is more liberty in a society, it may lead toward a total chaos and anarchy. But to maintain a proper balance between these two, there should be fraternity. And fraternity is nothing but uh, the gist of what Dr. Ambedkar has called the social democracy. Okay, and in fact, the roots of social democracy lie in the idea of fraternity. So we have seen in the history of political thought that all these three values have always been given importance. Okay, but uh, Dr. Ambedkar made it unique in his own way by adding on more value to fraternity. Okay, this was the contribution of Dr. Ambedkar, where he emphasized on the value of fraternity more than liberty and equality. So this is his contribution in the development of the social thought, in the development of the political thought, and particularly Indian political thought. So finally, when we see that how Dr. Ambedkar Dr. Ambedkar defines democracy. Okay, this is one of his statement which you can see on screen right now. So this is one of his statement which he has given to an American uh, media in 1956. So 1956 is the year in which Dr. Ambedkar died. And in the same year, he is coming with the very mature idea of democracy, which I say is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's idea of democracy. And you can see in this statement, this is Dr. Ambedkar's quotation from his essay, where he has talked about democracy uh, and democracy and its prospects. Okay, so he says democracy is quite different from a republic as well as from parliamentary government. So, in the very first statement, we can see and we can demarcate the idea of democracy, which is common, which is general, which is very popular, and which we all know. So, Dr. Ambedkar is in a kind rejecting that very popular idea. Okay, you see that there is a kind of denial to that very idea, which reduces democracy in a very political way, in a very electoral way. So, according to Ambedkar, when somebody sees democracy only in election, so that would be incorrect, according to Dr. Ambedkar. Then he says the roots of democracy lie not in the form of government, parliamentary or otherwise. So now he in this what I call the very mature idea of democracy, he is trying to locate the roots of democracy. Okay, and while discussing about the roots of democracy, Dr. Ambedkar is saying that the roots of democracy lie not in the form of government, parliamentary or otherwise. So we can just imagine the person who has given us the foundation of parliamentary democracy in India is making such a very big statement where he is rejecting that kind of a notion of uh, governmental democracy. Okay, then he further says that a democracy is more than a form of government. Okay, so he is adding an aspect to this political democracy. Of course, he believes in democracy, and that is why he has worked a lot in on political democracy as well as social democracy. So that is why he says, and he adds his aspect here, his perspective here, where he says that a democracy is more than a form of government. It is, according to Dr. Ambedkar, it is primarily a mode of associated living. The roots of democracy are to be searched in the social relationship, in the terms of associated life between the people who form a society. So we can very clearly see that in a society where there is graded inequality, where people hate other people only because they belong to certain another community, some other caste. Indian society is based on this social system of graded inequality, which is nothing but a society which is divided into castes. There are different castes, and Dr. Ambedkar, as a political thinker, as a philosopher, was very much critical of the idea of caste, and he was vehemently against the social system which was based on varna and caste. So according to him, therefore, the democracy should have associated living, the mode of associated living where there are no caste. So similarly, Dr. Ambedkar also advocates the idea of broader equality, where he emphasizes that there should be communication between male and female. Okay, we have often heard this very statement, mostly in films and cinemas, that एक लड़का और एक लड़की कभी दोस्त नहीं हो सकते. तो ऐसा काफी बार बोला जाता है, why they can't be friends? They are human beings, and by the value of being human beings, they can be friends. So by this kind of discrimination which has been there in India and all over the world, which discriminated people on different demarcations, on the basis of religion, on the basis of language, on the basis of caste, creed, gender. So these discriminations deny this kind of friendship which make the associated living possible. So therefore, Baba Saheb, while explaining his idea of democracy, Dr. Ambedkar, while elaborating his idea of democracy, has also said that democracy is nothing but fraternity. And fraternity, I'm sure we all know that fraternity is nothing but friendship. Whenever there is friendship between different people, so there is an establishment of fraternity. And Dr. Ambedkar goes beyond to say that fraternity may be a limited word to address what we call friendship, which is, according to Dr. Ambedkar, is a solution for the ill of the society, for the ills of discrimination. So Dr. Ambedkar says that the larger and the broader idea of fraternity is found in the word Maitri. Okay, Maitri is a Sanskrit word which is basically a Pali word, and it is called metta. And this metta or Maitri has its roots in Indian soil, because Lord Buddha was the first political philosopher. Lord Buddha was the first social philosopher who has given and who has taught the idea of friendship in his idea of Maitri or Metta. So, Dr. Ambedkar, as a very sincere student of Lord Buddha, gives this idea of friendship or Maitri in a form of democracy, which I say as a solution to the ills of discrimination. Okay, and this is how we see that of and for the ills of discrimination. Dr. Ambedkar has given a very important idea of democracy, which is rooted in the teachings of Lord Buddha, which is uh, the master and teacher of Dr. Ambedkar. And somewhere in the speeches of Constituent Assembly also, he has proclaimed very clearly that people may say that I am taking the ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity from French Revolution, but he clarified that they should not think so, because I am taking these ideas of liberty, equality, fraternity not from French Revolution, but I am taking these ideas from very Indian soil, and these are first of all given by Lord Buddha, which was 2500 years back. So this is how by the overall idea of liberty, equality, and fraternity, and moreover, emphasizing on the idea of fraternity and Maitri, Dr. Ambedkar gives and concludes that democracy is the way for is the way against the ills of discrimination which are there in Indian society. So I will stop here, and before stopping, I would like to share one video, a very short speech of Dr. Ambedkar, uh, which will uh, which will sum up Dr. Ambedkar's idea of democracy in his own voice. So I would not take that benefit, and I would rather give this benefit to Dr. Ambedkar himself, because he is the original voice. And let us hear the original voice. So I'll stop my screen sharing here, and am I able to share my screen, because I don't see the option to share my screen here? Can the technical team help me with this?
So can you please try now? As you are already a co-host, I think you will be able to share. Can you please try again?
Yes, I am able to share the content, but only photos, iCloud, website, bookmark, and whiteboard,
So the
not my
video is
screen.
on the Google Chrome. Are you trying to share? Is it
Uh,
Google Chrome?
no, ma'am. I'm using iPad. So
I
that is why maybe.
video is saved in your device. Is it so, sir?
No, I was going to share it from YouTube only.
So you are using Safari, sir. Browser Safari. Are you using,
Yeah,
sir?
yeah.
So you are not able to share Safari. Is it so, sir? This is the problem. Are you facing?
Yes, I think if
Can you
we.
just yes, sir,
Yeah,
please.
I'm sorry.
You have Google Chrome in your iPad.
No.
So Safari, I don't think so. Manoj sir, can you help us out?
I I can share the link of this video in the chat box, and somebody else can play it for me.
Yes, sir, surely.
Is this
Sir,
possible?
yes, sir, surely. It is possible, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much, ma'am. I'll do it.
Yes, sir.
I think this is very important video to conclude my discussion here. So that is why let us see.
Yes, Manoj sir. Manoj
Thank you,
sir.
ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Sir, you can share your screen. First, open your Safari. First, open your Safari or YouTube channel. and after that when you are going to run your video, then you can share your screen. That is visible to all.
On the website, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
You
I'll
can open your
try. I'll
Safari.
try. Okay, I'm not able to hear. I'm so sorry. So I think I've shared it. Is it visible to all?
Yes,
Yes,
sir, it
sir,
is
it is.
visible.
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
it,
Thank you.
it is visible, sir. Sir, you can use a full screen.
Okay, okay. I'm
So
trying. Thank you very much, Manoj sir.
you're welcome, sir, you're welcome.
Thank you, Manoj sir.
Uh, okay, yeah, yeah. This is a clip from Buddha or Karl Marx. I think it is not. Okay.
It's blank, sir, actually. It's not. I think some internet issue is there.
Oh, one.
Sir, can you please WhatsApp the link to Ritika? Ritika, can you please, Ritika ma'am, can you share? Or you can
Yeah.
post it on the
Yeah,
chat box also, sir. Link.
yeah,
Yes, sir, you can put it
yes,
in the chat box. I'll share.
yeah. Yeah, I've shared it on the chat box. If somebody can please share it. Are you able to see, Professor Ritika?
Yes, sir, I'm trying to open. Just a minute.
Ritika ma'am, if you have any difficulty, just call me. I will
Okay.
help you out.
Yes, sir. The clip, I think, is not.
Let me try. Let me try. 1 second. Let me try.
If it's
Ma'am, this
not
one is audio
happening,
clip.
so it's okay, ma'am. Let it be. Let
No,
it
I
be.
think I'm able. Is it visible and is it audible? I think
Yes,
video.
ma'am, yes, ma'am, visible.
Yeah.
We want to counter the opponent by interpreting with them the doctrine, then men can counter it and not power. That's where the fundamental difference lies. But the Buddha will not allow that. And the family is true. Whereas the family get first result. Because when you adopt the means, the family gets the means. It has not been means to oppose you. You go on with your ideology. You go on with your ways of thinking. Because we just said, it's a long way. Correct practical process is universal. But I have no doubt about it. That this is the purest way.
So yes, yes, you can stop here. And this is how he has concluded that his way is particularly Buddha's way. And I wanted to add something more, but that video was not taken. It's okay. I will conclude here. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to discuss these ideas with you all. And I'm looking forward for any questions or any other opinions shared by anybody who is present here. So yes, thank you very much, Ritika, Professor Ritika, Professor
Now,
Julia,
I think,
Sonika. Yeah, thank you.
yeah, sorry to interrupt, sir. I think we have few questions here. Shushma Panda has raised hand. Ma'am, do you have any question or any query?
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
1 second. Let me just unmute, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you can unmute yourself. Sushma, ma'am, you can unmute yourself.
Yes. Okay. Okay, thank you, Dr. Vruttant. It was nice listening to you. And just I wanted to congratulate you. It was a nice discussion.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Any? Yes. Yeah. Any other question from any participant? Anybody who wants to share any or want to ask any question to Vruttant sir? Yes. Sonika, ma'am, you have to unmute yourself.
I think Dattu sir wants to share something.
Yes.
Sir, you can unmute yourself. Dattu sir.
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening, sir. Very nice presentation. Just I would like to add something here. So Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, his idea on democracy has changed, or we can say evolved from time to time. As we see, we should not forget the round table conference when he asked the untouchables or the depressed class a dual role for the giving a vote. At the same time, in around 1953, when he was resigned from the Nehru ministry as a law minister at that time, and he was given the interview in the BBC World that time, BBC Radio, and he said that, and he was asked the question about the democracy. He has given the example: if the Congress party has given the candidate as a donkey, people will never see whether the person is donkey or the dog. They will see the bullock cart and they will cast the vote. And he said that in India, even though I had become the member of a drafting committee chairman or the constitution, something I had did it. But in India, the democracy didn't have a future unless and until we have planned to destroy this untouchability. Land reform should be there. So we should read this. And one more thing, lastly, I want to add that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar has written 3 important books, even though he has written many things, but especially he has written Buddha and Karl Marx. Secondly, he has written a book, which I'm reading just now, Buddha and his Dhamma. And third one, he has written Buddha or Karl Marx. So in this, we will come to know how the idea of democracy has evolved. And he has said that in India didn't have a future in democracy unless and until we have a social justice. Thank you, sir. Good presentation. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Sonika ma'am.
Thank you, Dattu sir. Thank you so much.
And in the, I just want to tell the students in this lockdown, please read the books, original books of any author and these things. It is a good time. And I'm just started and I'm very happy I had completed 38 pages. Thank you. Thank you, Sushma ma'am also.
Ritesh, do you have any question? You have raised your hand.
Yes, ma'am. So first of all, I want to say that it was a great lecture indeed. And I just want to add that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was also a personal democratic person, and he used to follow the idea of Buddha very poorly. he never compromised for anyone's right. We still just now previous sir mentioned that he resigned from the parliament. He resigned from the parliament. He resigned from his minister post for the rights of Indian women. When his influence was less in Hindu code bill. So yeah, it was a great lecture. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to take any particular questions if you have, because I did not want to give more time on the discussion, first initial my discussion, and I wanted to really discuss questions if you had. So I'm really looking forward to more questions, and I would like to add on to what Professor Dattu has said, and also I see that there is one more comment by Dr. Arun here, who says that please highlight on social pollution at present social distancing. Yes, I would really like to comment on social distancing also. But yes, if you have any other comments or any other questions particularly, so please let me know. I would be glad to discuss the questions with you. And thank you very much, Susma ma'am here. Susma ma'am was HOD of our department just before I joined. So she has been very helpful, and Susma ma'am is a very beautiful mind in that way. So thank you very much, Susma ma'am, for being here, for joining me, and for encouraging me with your good words.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for joining. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor.
So if there are any questions, so yeah, to let me know. About social distancing here, first of all, let me quickly comment on social distancing. Social distancing is a kind of maintaining social purity only, okay? And social purity is the cause of untouchability of or discrimination in India. So this social purity is seen in different institutions, okay, different social institutions also. And Varna is the glaring example. It's the brazen example of this kind of social purity and social pollution. Okay, people are differentiated on the basis of this very pollution. When a Brahmin touches Shudra or Ati Shudra, so what happens? There is pollution happening according to the Brahminical scriptures. So that is why we see in this form of social pollution also the same kind of ideas are followed. I think that it should be physical distancing more than social distancing, and social distancing leads towards social pollution, which is again an ill of our society. So here, what Professor Dattu was mentioning, I would like to add a few aspects to this. He talked about 3 books of Dr. Ambedkar. So I would like to clarify one point here, that Dr. Ambedkar could not take this project or complete the project of the book called Buddha and Karl Marx. He wanted to make a analytical study, a comparative study of Buddha and Karl Marx, considering both as political thinkers. Okay, Buddha is generally considered as a religious personality. Okay, as the founder of some religion. Okay, it has become religion. Buddha's teachings have become religion in a point of time, but basically I also see Buddha as a political philosopher, basically. Okay, as a student of political science, I would like to say this, that Buddha is a political philosopher like Karl Marx. And in his book, Dr. Ambedkar wanted to make a comparative analysis of both these political thinkers, but that did not become possible because Dr. Ambedkar died, and Buddha and Karl Marx was not written. It was a never written book. But Buddha or Karl Marx, this is a speech which Dr. Ambedkar gave in Nepal, where he was addressing the crowd, the Buddhist crowd. So there, the king of the Nepal, he requested Dr. Ambedkar to make a comparison between Karl Marx and Buddha, because that time the philosophy of Karl Marx was getting popularized throughout the world. So that is why all the people, most of the people, they wanted Dr. Ambedkar views on Marxism. So that is why he gave this very phenomenal speech, which is Buddha or Karl Marx, which I have also used in my presentation in the last part. So there is this history where Dr. Ambedkar makes a very, very detailed comparative analysis between Buddha or Karl Marx, and he has written also. He has written a short essay, which is also published in a form of book, which is Buddha or Karl Marx, which he compares the teachings and the philosophy of Karl Marx and the Buddha. And so far, the development of Dr. Ambedkar's ideas of democracy is concerned, I would again reiterate that by 1956, Dr. Ambedkar had fully related the idea of democracy with Maitri, which was based in Buddha's teachings. So then many of his previous statements were not as similar to what he says in 1956. So this difference, I think we should remember while studying Dr. Ambedkar. So thank you very much, Professor Dattu, for your comments, for your insights. It helped a lot. Thank you. I see again there are a few comments. Okay, there is one very important, very interesting question here. I will take this question if we have time.
Yes, sir, sure. Yes.
Yeah. So there is one more uh, question here. Okay. Can you explain? You had that one male friend cannot be. So why? Okay. So first, let me take this. This was just an analogy, just an example. By popular Indian movies, we have these kind of very weird notions. Okay, we have had these notions where there were people from certain class of age or different classes. They believed that एक लड़का और एक लड़की कभी दोस्त नहीं हो सकते. I've got this question, so I'm just simplifying my statement here. एक लड़का और एक लड़की कभी दोस्त नहीं हो सकते, उनमें जरूर कोई ना कोई रिश्ता होगा. So this is a very very weird notion which have been there. Okay, we cannot deny that this kind of notion, which is patriarchal notion, I would say, there, which has been there in Indian society, and this is a kind of discriminatory notion which leads towards discrimination. Okay, by this kind of notion, there will be an establishment of society which would deny the creation or the establishment of friendship between a male and a female. But in a democratic society, we see that relationships are very horizontal. There is this feeling of friendship among all, irrespective of gender, irrespective of race, religion, creed. So that is why I would just relate that kind of a statement, which is a very popular Indian cinema wala statement, with the larger idea of discrimination and democracy, of course. And now coming to this part of conversion. This question is asked by Jai Kholia. All these years, there still has been numerous caste atrocities, the extreme ones against Shudras in Hinduism. So is converting the only option left? So here, I would say that if conversion is not the only option, it is a very potent option of making Indian society a democratic society, because we see in Dr. Ambedkar's ideas that he has been speaking about the difference between the ideas of society and the ideas of constitution. Okay, he maintained a demarcation, a difference between the ideals which are there given in the constitution, which are the ideals which we have seen: liberty, equality, fraternity, and the ideals which are there, which are already existing in the society, which are discriminatory, which make people to discriminate on the basis of caste, sex, gender, and all these different differences. So there is a kind of dichotomy between these two ideals. So Dr. Ambedkar maintains that there is this dichotomy, and this kind of dichotomy makes it impossible for India to become a democratic society. So that is why, along with the constitution as a political way, as a political democratic way, Dr. Ambedkar has added the social way or a cultural way of conversion, of making people more conscious of the social democracy via the ideals of liberty, equality, fraternity, justice, and Maitri, which is fraternity. So that is why, if not the only option, conversion is a very potent option of making Indian society a democratic society. This would I comment. Again, I think there is one question here.
I think, sir, this is the last question we can take by Jash Vashi. Why did Ambedkar, sir, write a book named Thoughts of Pakistan, though he being a true nationalist and a lover of country like India? So this, I think, sir, would answer.
So, okay, I will give a very simple response to this question. Dr. Ambedkar was, of course, a nationalist, but along with being a nationalist, he was a student of Indian society. He was a student of politics. He was a student of governance. He was a student of administration. He was a student of public administration. So that is why, through his scholastic perspective about nation and the theory of nation, Dr. Ambedkar has tried to contribute his perspective of politics via this book called The Thoughts of Pakistan. That's it. So thank you very much for all of these questions. I really enjoyed responding to these questions. Thank you very much, Professor Ritika,
Yeah.
for this
With
interaction.
this, I would like to propose a vote of thanks. I would first like to thank our principal, Dr. Lily Bhushan, to give us an opportunity to conduct such a session on Ambedkar and his thoughts. Now, I would like to thank, first of all, I would like to thank our coordinator, Dr. Sonika Gupta, our colleagues of Department of Arts, and a special thank you to Dr. Vruttant for accepting our request and having a session on and discussing the views of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Thank you, sir.
So much, Dr. Vruttant, for delivering such a wonderful and impactful session. It was an honor to hear from you, sir. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.